Good morning. I am now calling this meeting to order. Thank you for viewing the January 9th special meeting of the Arcata City Council. The City Council meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting with both in-person attendance and teleconference access via Zoom. The City of Arcata acknowledges that the land we are located on are an unceded ancestral lands of the Wiyot tribe. The land that Arcata rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Arcata acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement seeks to aid in dismantling the legacy narratives of settler colonialism. If you'd like to, please join me with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor White,
Present.
Vice Mayor Atkins Salazar,
Here.
Councilmember Matthews,
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Councilmember Stillman,
Yes.
all present.
During special meetings, public comment is only taken at the beginning of the meeting. The public comment period provides an opportunity for people to address the council only on items that are listed on the special city council meeting agenda. Please be aware that this will be the only opportunity during the meeting to provide public comment. If you wish to comment, there are 3 ways to do so. 1, if you are here in person, please line up behind the podium now. 2, if you are logged in onto Zoom, click raise your hand now. And 3, if you are on the phone, press *9 on your phone to raise your hand, and when it is your turn, you will be prompted to dial *6 on your phone. We will be taking in-person public comment first, then move to online comments. We will not be going back and forth, so if you are wanting to comment, please line up at the podium or raise your electronic hand now. When we move online comment, I will ask the city clerk how many hands are raised, and we will proceed to take comment from the number of people called in at that time.
I did try and get others to show up in person, and hopefully there are some people online. I spoke yesterday at the fire district meeting as well. As you all know, I wander about town on foot often, and so a lot of the buildings and businesses that were affected by the fire a week ago are very familiar to me, and I'm very familiar with some of the challenges those businesses had inside those buildings prior to fire. Actually, my last job was working in the kitchen appliance section of Hensel's Hardware, so I really know up close about that building, and I totally appreciate the response to the fire by all departments and others. I was actually on the bus headed down H Street when a huge fire truck raced by, and we noticed the smoke, and we initially thought it had come from the miner, but the bus driver and all the directions, everything was capable. We, diverted and all that. Subsequently, I still walk around and, go into some of my regular places, and new and old buildings present their challenges to our fire district in terms of response and how they can respond, and the personnel and the equipment. And so we are very fortunate that the mutual aid opportunity came through so successfully in many ways for this fire. As I'm walking in the freezing cold, it is freezing, 32 degrees. I was walking here and got my coffee, and I'm thinking of those who had no place to go in Arcata to be warm. And it also just really concerns me because oftentimes people who have to be outside in very cold climates will do things unsafely to keep themselves warm that will result potentially in far bigger tragedies than we might want to know about. So I'm glad we're having this meeting. I did go to the dormitories after the fire, the tall, new, modern dormitories, to sit there and ponder their, the challenges that this presents if something should happen to a high rise and a large scale population of people. Fortunately, nobody was there at those buildings when I was there, but you just think about what could be. And so, old or new, we need to do much more to support the fire district and others in helping not get these things to keep happening so frequently and so big and large. So thank you.
Mayor White, can I just make one comment to address one of the statements? I'd just like to remind everybody that the Arcata House has significant resources that have funneled to them from the city. So if there are people out in the cold and that need some type of winter weather shelter, that they should go to the annex by the transit center if they do need services, and that they do have resources for that have been contributed by the city this year.
Thank you for that. All right, that brings us to staff report.
Well, we have 2 commenters on Zoom.
Oh, I apologize, please.
Jen, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Jennifer Call with Humboldt Waterkeeper. I really appreciate all of your efforts and having this meeting, and I imagine you're going to address this, but I'm particularly interested in Humboldt Waterkeepers getting a lot of questions about the temporary measures that will be put in place. Some of the ones that are there now maybe need a little readjusting, but just a lot of I'm getting a lot of pictures of all the paint that's still on site and what happens when it rains, as plans are made to remove all that rubble safely, and I imagine it's going to take a while. So I hope you're going to cover that, and I'll stay tuned and listen. Thank you.
Dan, please go ahead.
Hello. Hey, City Council. What a tragedy. Amazing work by the Arcata Fire Department and the surrounding fire departments that chipped in to help on this because it was so huge. The real question is, what do we learn from this? What do we need to do to prepare for if, say, the new residence hall from Cal Poly were to start burning, or if one of the new 8-story towers zoned for the Gateway District? Is there a way we can do some kind of analysis to see if we even have what it takes to support a fire of a structure that size? I think it's imperative that we use this tragedy as a method to learn and to modify our plans if need be to make future development in Arcata safer for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you for your public comment. That now brings us to staff reports. All reports shall be specifically limited to city business and shall not request or lead to action by city council at this meeting. Can we receive an update on fire emergency?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor White. So what I'd like to do is just give Chief Emmons with Arcata Fire District just a brief moment to give an update, a synopsis of the event from their perspective, very brief, and then also just a snapshot of where they're at today, followed by Chief Ortega, and then I'll say a few words about what the city's working on as we are moving forward, and then we'll go to the adoption of the resolution.
Mayor, Council, thank you for giving me a couple of moments to talk. As we know, about 2:30 in the afternoon on Friday last week, January 2nd, one of our fire engines was returning from a medical aid on the south end of town, and they noticed smoke rising from the downtown area. The captain on that engine notified our Fortuna Command Center to dispatch a full commercial response, which initiated our 3 engines responding. He proceeded to the area of the smoke and found where the fire was, obviously. The fire was well developed and rapidly spreading upon our arrival. It had already gotten into the concealed spaces of the building and was spreading through the attic and the concealed spaces of multiple buildings that were connected. As far as our ICS structure and our command staff, the assistant chief duty officer got on scene, initiated recalls of personnel, and began ordering resources, which, I mean, just knowing the area, we were going to need a lot of resources. We had many agencies from essentially CAL FIRE Trinidad to the north, all the way down to CAL FIRE WIOT to the south that responded, and everybody along the 101 corridor. Humboldt Bay Fire and Fortuna Fire provided the ladder trucks, and those ladder trucks were, and their companies, their personnel were pretty significant in helping to contain the fire. I will say that everybody that was involved, from the fire staff to our volunteer support personnel that were on scene to GR Sunberg and Fegus Construction, without their heavy equipment, as drastic as that is, as far as a tactic, it was needed to prevent the fire from jumping the street and going to additional blocks. Nobody ever likes to, from the fire service standpoint, nobody ever likes to deploy heavy equipment, but that was essentially a do or die situation for us to keep it from spreading and taking a larger portion of the city. So one thing I do want to say, there's been a lot of talk about the rumors of a gas explosion, and we don't have any indication of that. The gas leak that came was later, or it fed the fire, but it wasn't the cause of the fire. So the one thing I do want to acknowledge is that Pacific Gas and Electric was on scene so fast for us when we requested them. They wanted in there. We could not let them get in there because it was too close to the fire. They had to pull back to the intersection and dig up the gas line that was contributing to that, the spread of the fire, fueling the fire. And once we got them in there, they shut it down as quickly as possible. There's so many resources and people, local businesses that contributed to keep us, hydration and food throughout the event. It was I'll say obviously it was a community-wide event for us, but it was also a county-wide event for us. We had the American Red Cross, Wild Berries was donating food. I know there were other places that I didn't get the names of the businesses that contributed food and hydration for us. The folks that came out and just the support from the community has been tremendous. Makes Arcata that's the reason it's a great place to live, is because of the community turnout and support. As far as the recovery process, I want to thank Assistant Chief Ryan Wakefield from State OES. He's my phone a friend whenever things get big and bad, and I called him the next day, and he was actually the one that suggested the OES state process for the recovery and getting the process rolling for assistance through the disaster declaration. The Board of Supervisors, the sheriff, city manager Perry, everybody came together. One of the things we always hear, it seems like we always hear in the after action, is that communication was bad and all that. This is, in my 34 years of doing this is one of the best run, most communicated events I've been involved with in my 34 years. And I mean, that's just something that I run into, that it's not typically that way. And as drastic and tragic as this fire was, and I'm not saying this flippantly, it actually went as well as it could. So I want to thank the city staff. They ensured we had water, because there was discussion that we were running out of water. Well, the water system supported us. We were just out pumping it, because we were flowing about 9,000 gallons a minute at the peak of the fire. And I believe it was right around 2.5 million gallons of water we put on the fire itself. Again, thank you for the support. Where we're at right now, the investigation's still ongoing. We're making headway. We are absolutely making headway on that. And hopefully we'll have some better information in the coming days, and hopefully maybe by next week we can put something out there. And I'm available for questions if you have anything anyone would like to ask.
I just want to, again, thank you so much. That one gentleman that was all the way up on the ladder truck for 4 hours. I mean, just incredible. Chief, if people want to donate to the fire department, how would they do that? What's the best way for that to happen?
Reach out to us. I mean, obviously there's a lot of folks that want to do that, and we absolutely appreciate it. It needs to be coordinated. Otherwise we get overwhelmed with being a small department and everything. But if they want to reach out to us at our McKinleyville station, it's the McKinleyville station is our headquarters. So 707-825-2000 phone call, we can coordinate with them. That would be the best way.
And as information is coming out about, as you find out more about the causes of the fire, how will that information be disseminated?
So we're coordinating with the police department on it. This was actually Humboldt County because of the magnitude of the incident. It's not that we're suggesting it was arson in any way. The name is somewhat misleading, but the Humboldt County Fire Arson Investigation Unit, we pull that team together, but it's the heavy lift is being done with a detective from the Arcata Police Department and one of my fire investigators, and they've taken the lead on it. And once we get to the point we're comfortable releasing the information, we'll do something coordinated together to, be able to answer those questions that come up.
Thank you. And again, thank you so much.
I just wanted to say that it's times like these that make me really proud to be a community member in Arcata. We really did come together, and we will get together and move forward, and we'll be stronger and better together. So thank you, everybody, for what they've done. Alex?
I was gonna thank you for a great job. And it shows how everyone, I've run into other fire chiefs from everywhere and they tell me, oh, we went and backed up this. And so there's a whole system in place, and possibly, there's no way that I would know that, but they know where to go to back up different fire departments within our region. And I think that's really excellent. There's so much going on in the background that we never know as a individual. And I want to thank you for being so well coordinated with the county.
Sure.
So thank you. And the service we received. Thank you.
Yeah. One other thing I want to acknowledge is there were 2 other agencies that came in and covered our district while this incident was going on. There were 5 other calls that occurred while this fire was going on. So everybody focuses on the major incident, of course, but day-to-day operations don't stop. So, medical aids in Arcata were still being run and taking care of other business. So, all right. Thank you.
And I think if Chief Ortega just give a brief update or synopsis from the police department perspective, and then we'll go into what the city's working on next.
Well, thank you, Chief Emmons, and good morning, Mayor White and council members. From the law enforcement perspective, our focus was primarily on supporting fire operations and ensuring public safety. Arcata Police assisted with evacuations, traffic control, scene security, code red messaging to our community, and coordination of the investigative response alongside our fire department. Due to the size and complexity of this incident, we had to recall several patrol shifts and additional dispatch staff to safely manage the incident and also maintain citywide coverage. And also to address the high volume of fire-related calls received by our communications center. And as the incident stabilized, APD command staff assisted in standing up and staffing the city's EOC, Emergency Operations Center, through subsequent operational periods to support coordination and resource management moving forward. I want to extend my gratitude to the Arcata Fire Department and all allied fire agencies from across our county, as well as personnel from the Arcata Police Department for their response, all assisting public and private entities, and the many community members who stepped up to help both at the scene and in the days that followed. Thank you. This emergency declaration provides the framework needed to continue coordinated recovery and mitigation efforts. If there are any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, I will turn it over to our city manager.
So this is your first week of being chifa?
Pretty
So
close.
You call that a literal trial by fire, I guess?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you to all of the APD. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I spent quite a bit of time down there, and your officers were quite busy and they kept everything under control. And I thought it was excellent. And I thought it was great that our former chief, this is fire department, but our former chief was the public information officer, Dave White, and he did a great job, and it was easy to send the press to him because he was always right there watching, and your officers were fantastic. So I appreciate that, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you again for doing an exemplary job, and trial by fire for sure.
Well, thank you very much for your support. I appreciate it.
Okay, so thanks, Mayor White. Thanks, Chief, for those comments. Just a couple people I did want to acknowledge from city staff were really key to the response that, they weren't mentioned yet, but David Case, our deputy city engineer, he was out there working with our utilities and streets crews. And then Scott Lackey from our city environmental services department, he was doing everything that was needed that fell into the gaps, whether it was protecting storm drain inlets or focusing crews or setting up traffic control. Scott was all over the place and just had a great response. And I'm sure and Assistant City Manager Miller, we really pulled together. This is just regarding the incident, during the incident, but helping to make sure we had the equipment for the fire department, light stands, bathrooms, excavators. And so it was really, the communication was seamless. And I think part of that is a relationship that we've been building over the last several months as we've been working together on the coverage analysis for the department and funding. So I feel like those relationships paid dividends in this fire, and that it really worked to our benefit. So when Arcata Fire District was done, the day after the fire was pretty much put out, our focus became to secure the site. So you'll notice that we put a temporary fence, we put wattles around to try to limit the debris, and did the best that we could to secure the site for the interim. So that initial focus was on life safety and property protection, and so that threat is more gone. And so where the city's focus shifted at that point were to the potential environmental damage, and then how do we deal with the debris. And so we won't, not in any specific order, but one of the things that we realized very quickly, a lot of water went onto the site, as you heard from Chief Emmons, and there was a hardware store that included paint and other products there, mostly paint, and there's also an old building that has lead and asbestos and other things that could be in there. And so when you put that kind of water onto a building, it flows through the building, it flows into the storm drains, it flows into the natural waterways, Jolly Giant Creek, Butcher Slough, the marsh. And so one of our concerns, we did stand up an EOC. We had a lot of assistance from County Environmental Health. Maja Hoya came, and she has been through incidents like this and was a huge help to stand up our EOC. But the focuses for us were, okay, we know we've had some kind of release into the environment. What are the things that we can do to address it? So aside from some of the temporary mitigation measures we have out there to contain things, wattle, other things, we realize that even just assessing what the damage is out there is going to be a pretty big task and beyond the city's capability. And so that was the purpose of the proclamation of a local emergency, because what that does is it then goes to the county to see if they have resources that can be used to help in this situation. And so the county also found that this incident was beyond their resources. So they also proclaimed a local emergency so that could open up the potential for state resources to come to this fire. And so I also will say, I think Senator McGuire called me probably 6 times, 2 or 3 times during the incident, and following up the next day, just making sure, hey, if there's anything you need, we'll be there. He was very present, as well as some of our other elected officials. Chris Rogers was on the phone with Mike Wilson as well. And then we've had folks from Adam Schiff's office reach out. And so those emergency proclamations was kind of the first step for us to say, hey, state, we need some help here. This could be beyond where we're at. So that environmental piece, I'll focus on that for a minute and what we're doing there. Our environmental services director, Emily Sinkhorn, she was designated as the agency liaison when we propped up our EOC. And so she's been talking with Cal OES and the other agencies that fall under Cal OES just to really define what that problem is and develop a sampling analysis plan and so we could put together an idea of what that, what the assessment will look like, and then ultimately what any cleanup or mitigation work would look like. And so right now we're not sure how that would be funded, who would undertake that work, but we're still working to define what that piece would look like. And with the primary concern of being, okay, what do we need to protect human health and environmental health? One of the things that we did during the emergency was we notified the Harbor District. They have shellfish leases. The city has shellfish leases. Try saying that. And so really just making sure that we made all those notifications to the appropriate agencies seeking input from Fish and Wildlife, the state, all DTSC. And so the fire department made a general notice to Cal OES, and then we also made additional notices just to make sure any users of the bay or food producers that could be impacted or environmental agencies were aware. So our focus there will be to define what those next steps are to assess that issue. One of the other bigger things that we're thinking about, and there's been a lot of questions, I think there was even a poll on the Lost Coast Outpost, is how do we get that site cleaned up? Everybody wants to know how can we clean it up, and I've been very interested in that too. I think one of the key things to show a resilient community is you don't leave a big mess sitting there continuing to create problems, and so we're very interested in that. One of the things that is going to take a little bit of time that could delay that cleanup is not only does Arcata Fire have to do an investigation, but the insurance companies each want to undertake their own investigation. And so we did have some desire to be in there to do some things. And what that could potentially do is disrupt the insurance for the providers if they don't feel that the insurance companies have been able to conclude their investigation. And I will say it's not clear cut. They don't walk up and just write you a check for the maximum amount. Those insurance companies want to look and see who's at fault and do their best to assign the blame where it belongs. And a lot of times that's not for the insured they're covering. So they don't just, the insurance companies don't just step up and pay out easily. They want to investigate it, assign blame, and only take responsibility for what portion they feel is their response. So I'm a little concerned that could delay the response if those investigations take a long time, if there's not consensus. And again, I haven't been through an incident from this position like this yet, but one of the things that I'm trying to do is think about how we could be a catalyst to try to move that forward. And so much like the environmental assessment, what I want to try to do is understand what that effort will look like. So we're working with some of the property owners and some of the local contractors to get an idea of what the volume of the material is out there. One of the contractors flew it with a drone to get a volume estimate. One of the other things that'll have to be done is they'll have to do some sampling, determine what is out there. Is lead and asbestos present? We're working to get the inventory from the hardware store. What are the constituents that we're concerned about? And Emily St. Corn, our environmental services director, is working with some of the agencies so we can identify that information will feed into what things should we be sampling for and what should we be looking for in the receiving waters that took some of that storm, that took some of that storm water that came from the fire. So our hope is that, in an ideal world, we'd figure out what that cost would be and all the insurance companies would step up and pay their proportional share, but there could be some hesitations. There could be disagreement on what happens there, but we have to give that a little bit of time for those investigations to conclude. I will say that we've been in close communication with the property owners. Each one of them is kind of in a different space. Some of them are pretty gung-ho and they have strong teams, and other ones are still a little bit in disbelief about the situation. So each one has different capabilities. The city's real lever to clean that up is nuisance abatement. And I know there's been instances where other cities on fires have stepped in and said, hey, this is a nuisance. We're going to take over. We're going to force a cleanup and then work to collect that money. But that type of mechanism goes through the property owners. And so I think we need to give it a little bit of time before we jump to that, because, by putting that kind of pressure on those property owners, I think it's a little too soon. And we don't know that those insurance companies aren't going to step up and pay for those costs for debris removal in particular initially. One of the other interesting things about this site, people probably have noticed that there was a dry cleaner and there was contamination in the ground that they were trying to remediate from the outside adjacent to the northeast corner of the building. This also provides a unique opportunity for the environmental consultant to go in there and clean up the source for that contamination from the dry cleaner. And so I've been talking with the engineer there, and he's been in communication with the other property owners. They have a grant actually to go in and do that cleanup. So even though it's not something you would hope for, a fire like this, it may facilitate the cleanup of that site. And they have grant funds that expire in November. So my hope would be if we can get the debris pile cleaned up sooner than later and assist the property owners in doing that the sampling could be done this spring, and then they could have a remedial action plan that could be done and acted on before November. And so those grants, I imagine, come through the government. So that might be one of the areas that, we look, if for some reason we're running up against the time pressure of that grant, perhaps that might be one area where our state electeds could help us too. So the ultimate goal would be rebuilding, and I think there's a lot of folks that have expressed interest in that already, both some of the property owners and other private developers. I think people want to continue to invest in Arcata. The businesses want to be here. So I think that's a really good thing. So I really don't have an accurate timeline, but before much can be done, it would really be at least 2 to 4 weeks before those insurance companies really step up. One of the things that we can do, there are some areas where we see some sources. You can see paint cans around the north southwest corner of the site. With when we get clearance from the insurance investigators that it won't disrupt, there are some things we can do, like potentially going in to tarp some of those sources. So when it starts raining again, that they don't continue to get rainwater on them that could mobilize some of the paints and other things that were in the hardware store. So, and the property owner's amenable to doing some of that work now, even when the insurance company's doing the investigation. But again, we don't want to jeopardize that coverage, and so we were going to be delicate about how we approach that and get consensus from those insurance companies. I will say too, another area that we've been working is, so in addition to working with the property owners, we've been talking with some of the business owners. We had a great meeting at Rotary last night where they wanted to pull together a small working group to talk about what's been happening. But from the city side, what we've done is I've reached out to some of the business owners that are there. I've talked to other building owners that have vacant space and trying to line those two up. Our business owners are very different spaces. Some are anxious to go. They want the space. They want to reopen and they're ready to go. Other ones are, I think, still in a little bit of shock about where they are in the situation and might have to take a little bit more time to take those steps to move forward. The way I see this, the chamber has a web page where they're trying to pool all the resources. And I won't say too much more about that, but I really see the chamber being a key clearinghouse for a lot of that and being the key supporter for our businesses. And I know that Pay It Forward Humboldt is also helping to organize for the residents that were displaced. So the combination of the chamber working with Pay It Forward Humboldt, coordinating the resources on the chamber's website is going to be huge. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. And Meredith Meyer with the chamber was talking about that at the Rotary meeting, how they're vetting some of the fundraising sources. And I'll stop there. I saw Meredith is on here. If you do want to raise your hand and you have something to say, Meredith, we'd be happy to get you in on this. But so our focus really cleanup of the environment, cleanup of the debris, working with our property owners, working with our businesses, and then supporting the other efforts, but not being directly in front of the fundraising efforts. We're really going to be on the side of that. And one of the areas that, I'm a little bit worried about is, will there be a gap in between the cleanup costs for debris disposal and what those coverages are? And so that could be a situation where, things sit there and stall. And so I think we need to be ready to apply some pressure after we know what the situation really is. And so I did hear Jen Calt's comment earlier, and I think we do need to think about what those protective measures are. And that's something that we'll be working on over the next few days. But it does take a little bit of time for these insurance companies to do their investigation, but we will be asking for some clearance to get in there and try to limit the mobilization of some of the product that was in that building. I think that's it. Unless there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I do want to thank you, Merritt. I think that watching you really spring into action and make those phone calls and build those connections was invaluable. Really appreciate your leadership. And also, like you were saying, thank you to the chamber that also, sprung into action. We've been working with the Arcata Chamber, Humboldt Made, the North Coast SBDC, Pay It Forward Humboldt, the Arcata Lodging Alliance has all really come together. I know that the chamber, and I'll let Meredith speak more to that if she wants to. There's a needs assessment that is going out today to all of the businesses affected to really see what they need, whether it's co-working spaces, whether it's if their employees need help. And so I think that's really wonderful. And again, I think what the businesses also want to see is just the city keeping them informed, letting people know what's going on. I think would be lovely to see like a fence around the perimeter that we could paint murals on so we don't have to look at debris all the time. So maybe that would be something that we could get to happen. And again, one thing again that I love about this community is that the minute this happened, conversations were exploding on, that's a terrible word, were happening on social media about, what can we do to help? I want to do this fundraiser. I want to do that fundraiser. And the one thing that the chamber was able to do was really take all of those and organize them onto one page. So there's a whole weekend of fundraising activities that are happening, and all of the sources are vetted. And So that's a really great way if you have an idea of a fundraiser or you want to contribute to a fundraiser for the 7 businesses that were affected, or, the tenants. That's a really good place to start. So again, thank you, all of you.
I want to make one more comment that I forgot. Working with our building official, Joe Bishop, some of the folks who are looking at moving into other spaces, we're going to do our best to expedite some of the permitting to try to get that done really quickly, and then waive some of those building permit fees, just to make sure there's not another barrier and some time lapse if they identify a place that they want to go into.
Thank you. Thanks for the update from everyone. I just wanted to go back to Merritt, what you said early on about communication, and also Chief Emmons about the good communication that happened in this. And it is about relationship building. And when Chief Emmons first came on our first meeting together, that was something that we really talked about, just the past history of sometimes projects happening without fire knowing, and unintentional from the city's spot, but sometimes rifts that can happen. And so we talked about that early on. And I think from the very beginning, Chief Emmons started attending our staff meetings. We have management staff meetings weekly, and he's been a part of those. And that relationship with city and fire, not only for instances like this, but just for projects and moving forward, to make sure that there is that intentional communication. So I think that's a wonderful lesson for all of us in the community, just to keep our relationships with our neighbors and community there, so that when situations like this happen, we are able to pull together. And I think this was a good example of that. So thank you both.
Councilmember Atkins Salazar, one of the other things I didn't mention is we did have some of the folks, we've also been working very closely lately with Cal Poly Humboldt. They've been helping us to train in disasters. And so Chris Casera, Bethany Guild, and they both offered to come down and help us prop our EOC up. But we had that going, so we didn't take that help. But then we've also had Chrissy Holiday with the university stepping in, and they're thinking about what they can do to fundraise or provide potentially locations for businesses. So, I just wanted to mention the university too is interested and active in how they can be a part of this, and have been participating throughout, from the emergency through last night at the meeting with Rotary.
Thank you for adding that. Thank you.
I, again, just want to reiterate a big thanks to our Arcata Chamber, because everyone did want to help. And so to have that clearinghouse and a one-stop shop has been really helpful. And I'm looking forward to hopefully hearing from Meredith from the chamber. Hopefully she still on. Great.
She just raised her hand upon that.
Great. All right.
Meredith, please go ahead.
Hi there. Thank you so much. Good morning. I appreciate you guys. I think that Meredith Matthews did a great job, kind of summation of who we're working with and what our goals are. And we have a lot of information coming out. And I think that website's just a great place to keep updated on it. And if people have ideas or want to work on specific fundraising efforts, we're happy to help. We're all happy to network and connect people who want to donate to people that are having events. So please just feel free to reach out to us for anything. And thank you so much to the first responders. And I hope you guys know that there is also going to be a parade honoring the first responders and the work they did on February 1st on the plaza at noon.
Thanks, Meredith. So back to the council. That's all we have for the update. And then, so whenever, if you don't have any questions, that's all.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, well, that brings us then to consider adopting resolution number 256-32, confirming the existence of a local emergency and ratifying the Director of Emergency Services proclamation. Can we receive a report from our Assistant City Manager, Tabitha Miller, please?
Yes, thank you. Mayor, City Council, members of the public, and staff. So this is really just sort of the nuts and bolts, kind of tying up the process that we've talked about and the whole week's worth of work. As you know, the city manager did do a proclamation of emergency on Saturday. He did initiate the EOC as, you know, sort of the city's momentum to move forward. As a part of that, we have 7 days for the city council by state and even local, our municipal code, to confirm and ratify the proclamation of emergency, and so that we can continue to move forward with those resources and communication and additional access to help not just the city in its efforts on the environmental side, but also our local businesses, the economy, cleaning up and rebuilding. And so this is pretty straightforward, but what we're asking you to do is adopt resolution number 25632 so that we can continue in that state of emergency and continue with the efforts and accessing those additional resources that potentially are available at the state and federal level.
Great. So I'll go ahead to make a motion to adopt resolution number 256-32 to confirm the existence of a local emergency and ratify the Director of Emergency Services proclamation.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Matthews and a second from Alex Stillman. Is there any more discussion before we vote? Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and mine is aye, so motion passes.
Thank you. We'll continue to give some updates in future council meetings, and if anything big happens or more news, I'll be sure to let the council know, and if we need to schedule another meeting, we will.
Okay, then this meeting is adjourned unless, ahead.
We did get an email from somebody out. This is a side whole thing, wanting a picture of the full council, and I think Dylan was thinking about taking that. I wonder if this is an opportunity for him to do.
So I would suggest maybe we adjourn the meeting, and then if you'd like to do a picture, we could do that.
Adjourned, and then I'm sorry.
okay.
I just didn't want us to jump up and disappear.
Okay, so this meeting is officially adjourned.
Really?